Yo, did it work? Are we live? We should be live. What's up, everybody? I should really figure out this auto start thing. Every time I have to press go live in OBS and then go over to YouTube and dive deep into the settings to hit go live. Audio is working. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our regularly scheduled Thursday broadcast. Once again, messing around with settings. I feel like every week I try something with audio or visual or something. It seems to be working so far. Wait, I'm stretched. Am I stretched? Is my picture like... Hold on. I did do that. That's funny. Let me see if I can fix this while it's live. Do I look like stretched? Stream settings. Oh, sure enough. Hold on, I'll be back. I don't think this'll... I think it should be right back. Okay, it should be back. Let's see. Hello. I'm waiting for it to load on my screen. There's a delay. No more girth? Wait, but now there's bars on the side. Oh, no, there's not. Okay, so if you're on desktop and there's bars on the side, you have to refresh. What's up? Okay, we are now correctly working. Never mind, it was. That's better. Sick. Yeah, just little, tech, screwing around with stuff. I was messing with my audio's clipping. Hello. Turn that down a little bit. Yeah, I was changing my resolution settings because, as you know, if you've been here for a little bit, I've been recording my videos through OBS by HDMIing all the different cameras into the stream software. Got Stretch Armstrong over here. Yeah, it'll update in a sec. Next time, add bars on purpose. Adds character. Yeah, just add some cinema bars on the screen. Yeah. Yeah, so I was messing around with that. So I used to record in OBS in 4K, but then it would try to stream in 4K, and it was doing weird stuff, especially with the 2:1 aspect ratio, which is why it was stretched just now, because I forgot to update that. But now it should be fixed. So I have it set up now to record in higher res in 1440, not full 4K, so that I can manage my file sizes. And then it streams in 1080. So we should be working. Keep people guessing. Yeah, exactly. And then audio stuff for this week. The TV, the CRT is back on. I think I've mitigated a lot of the interference noise with mic positioning. And I also have the compressor off this week, which should fix some of the high-pitched noise. Let me know if there's an annoying high-pitched buzzing that you're hearing. It's weird because I don't hear it at all in my headphones. I hear it in real life, but not in my headphones. But in the last week's stream, one person said they could hear it. I pulled it into editing software to check the frequencies, and sure enough, there is a tiny little spike of high frequency noise, but I don't hear it at all here, and I think most speakers and headphones don't have that. I attempted to do a high pass filter thing, but it doesn't really work the way I thought it would. Did it go down? The stream went out for a second, but it'll be back, but it's a delay. Here, I'll show you what it does. So this is normal, no compressor, no EQ. And then when I turn the EQ on, this is what it sounds like. Not good, right? So I'm not sure what that was or why that's happening when I try to knock out just the high frequency, but something I'll keep messing around with. So we'll see. How are those DIY speakers working out? They are solid as hell. They sound great, actually. A lot better than the tiny little units I was using before. Definitely good enough for me. I don't edit off of speakers that often. I try to edit with headphones, but occasionally I do, and it's they do the job well, and it sounds good for music, which is mostly what I use them for, is just having something playing in the studio. So I got the 3 of them. One of them is hard mounted up here now. See that guy up there? He's stuck to the pallet tool wall. Stream stopper, just me. Yeah, it'll be fixed. It's interesting that some people are like 4 minutes behind on the delay. It's weird how that works. Funny Mike. Yeah, exactly. I'll get back now. Beautiful. Didn't know you did streams. Glad to see you. I've got a question about lenses. Been combing your vids trying to find the answer, but it's elusive. Sure. Yeah. Shoot me any questions. Chase, what's up? If there's an annoying high-pitched buzz, your ears are too young, go to some punk shows, you crazy kids. Exactly. Yeah, just go to some basement house shows where you get your ears blown out. That'll do you good. But it's interesting because, like, I do still hear the high-pitched buzz in real life, and I just don't hear it in the headphones. I don't know what's up with that. Might be a weird EQ thing on certain. I know, like, some headphones pump up the high end and the low end to make music sound better or something. And these are pretty flat reference monitors, so it doesn't really do that. But yeah, if it is annoying, let me know, and I'll just turn off the CRT. That's my solution for now. Nice. I have some 6x9 egg car speakers in my workshop set up for music audio. Yeah, they work like surprisingly well. It's funny, the car speakers that I tore out of my car, replaced them with nicer ones. They sound better in the studio than the new ones do in the car, because these are like properly mounted with, I mean, it's not a good resonating chamber, but it's something. And in my car, they're not housed very well right now. Hello, I want to thank you for everything. You really inspired me right now. Thank you. I'm glad that I can provide some inspiration, some drive. That's what it's all about. Hello, Peter J. What's up? What is up? So yeah, we're just hanging out again this week. Another one of our weekly 6 p.m. EST broadcasts. I'll be doing these every week. I want to know what you've been using for C-mount lenses. I've been inspired and picked up a few. One I absolutely love, Fujinon TV 75mm 1.8, but I've been trying to find something shorter, 25 to 50. Yeah, it's tough because C-mount, depending on what lenses you get, the crop factor can be weird. Like if it's for 16mm film cameras or for 8mm film cameras, like the image circle can be small. And depending on, like, they're harder to adapt to full frame cameras because it doesn't cover. But I use all APS-C, so it gets the job done. But then when adapting to something like the the Insta360 modded action camera with a 1-inch sensor, that's smaller. That's more comparable to a 16mm film lens. So it's like at that point, like this one, my favorite C-mount, I have this little old 16mm film lens. It is a 25mm focal length. It ends up actually working like, I don't know, a 75mm once you crop it down to 1-inch sensor. So yeah, this one's sick. Focus. Minimum focus distance on this lens is not great. It's a woolen sack f1.5 25mm. It's interesting, some of these older film camera lenses, it was like before they had standardized focal lengths to like millimeters. And so this one, the focal length is measured as 1 inch, which is really interesting. 1 inch comes out to about 25mm. So, most eBay listings now will have them listed as 25 millimeter, but on the lens itself, it says 1 inch, which is pretty funny. Hey man, found your videos about a week ago. I've always loved technical stuff, and last year found myself in an engineering job. Love the cinematic style and storytelling. You brighten my evenings. Hell yeah. Thank you. Was there more C-mount lens? This is the one that I use a lot. There's a 8mm f1.6. The brand is Isukar, something like that. Isukar. It's so cheap. It was like $10. And that's on the Insta360 right now. I actually have it hooked up. Let's see if it looks decent. No. The Insta360, I'll dive more into this later, but the Insta360 doesn't work well as a webcam. There was some people saying like, oh, you can fix your focus pulling issue by putting a HDMI monitor on it. The issue is it doesn't have HDMI, which is why I wish I'd maybe used a GoPro instead of an Insta360. But the Insta360 has a bigger sensor. There aren't GoPros with a 1-inch sensor, so then you get more crop. So it's a trade-off, but there's no HDMI. Now you can use the USB to turn it into a webcam, right? But in webcam mode, you can tell it looks like it's weird motion blurring, and I have color grading on this obviously, but it's when you put it in webcam mode, it goes 1080p and it goes full auto white balance, auto ISO, auto shutter speed. So it's like it thinks it needs to be in a really low shutter speed, and it has this weird compression stuff. Like when I move around, you see it's like weird stuff is happening, and it just in general looks pretty junk in webcam mode. So I wish that Insta360 would like update the firmware and add a nice like camera control PC app, but they have not done that. I was a little disappointed. I kind of bought into the Insta360 One system thinking that, because it was like this modular setup, and I was thinking they were going to support it for longer, but now they've kind of moved on to a different thing and not really doing useful firmware updates. So it's a little unfortunate, but I've got plans for how I can improve it and make the tiny cam rig live on. Finally made it back to stream. It's been a few weeks. My day job has been a nightmare. What's up, Scotty? Good to see you here. Hope the job situation improves. Peter J, love your vids. Makes me feel funny in a good way. Hell yeah. Grabbed a woolen sack, but it doesn't cover APS-C well at all. Yeah, some of them are 8mm film camera. You have to be like on C-mount. It's weird. There's industrial lenses, and there's like old TV lenses, and there's old film camera lenses. And like depending on what they are, the industrial ones cover fairly small sensors usually, but there's some of them that are meant for like 1-inch sensors. With film camera ones like the woolen sacks, they can be either 16mm or 8mm coverage. 8mm is not very useful unless you're adapting it to a GoPro or something with a very small sensor. Yeah, I was hoping for a 16mm suggestion. What's the little silver one you use? Yeah, the woolen sack 25. What's the highest number of watchers one of your streams have gotten? I think I broke 50 once, right after the William Osmond video hit, because I just happened to go live, I intentionally went live after he posted his video to kind of react to it, and I didn't realize that so many people were going to come over to my stream or my channel from the video. So I got like a lot of people in there from that. But yeah, I think it was maybe 50. There's no action camera that has no stumbles. Yeah. There's always some little limitation or quirk to it. The one that I'm looking at now, where did I put it? Oh, it's over here. Ooh. can't reach. The one that I'm looking at, modifying next, is this puppy, Sony RX0 Mark II. It's technically not an action camera. Oh, I just dropped it. It's technically not even an action camera. Like, it doesn't have crazy stabilization and stuff. But it's got a 1-inch sensor. It's meant for like crash cams, like mounting it to the hood of a car, just weird specialty purposes, or like people use these in like bullet time rigs where you have like 100 of them in a circle because they all link up. So it's not exactly like an action camera, and it's not even that wide of a focal length. So it's kind of this weird, quirky thing that's actually might be perfect for a little modified tiny cam rig. So we'll see. I'll mess with this thing. It's got it's funny when you turn this thing on, it's like a normal Sony menu, but in this tiny little screen. Let me see if it, oh, I don't have a battery in it. But it's funny because it's like a fully functioned Sony camera. It's just freaking tiny. Like, I can shoot S-Log on this thing. Really nice codecs and stuff, whereas the Insta360 is like pretty limited. One of my biggest gripes with the Insta360 is that you can do custom white balance, but it's just it's just temperature. It's just blue to orange, and you can't do tint, green to pink. And so the image always comes out like super pink, and I have to like save it in color grading. And it's a little bit of a annoyance. At least when I'm setting it to custom white balance, you can't adjust the tint. When you set it to auto white balance, it looks pretty good. Which is what I was doing for most of the shoot, or all of the shoot. All the footage you saw from it in the video was auto white balance, because that's the only way to like control the tint. It's really weird. Show the footage of Pappas kick flipping over the Sony. I might have that somewhere. I don't know if that drive is plugged in. But yes, that is a good use case for it. We set this thing up under like at a skate park underneath some jumps, and had Michael jump over it, and he actually landed on it once on the lens side. I had it flipped up so that I could get him going over, and he like the wheel hit the front on the lens, and nothing happened. Perfectly fine. Footage dump. Is it in here? I've got folders on all my drives that is just footage dump for stuff that's not meant for a particular project. Is this it? This is not it. Yeah, I don't know if I have it. Later in the stream, we'll also pull up the video itself, and I'm going to play back the video, do a little director's commentary as we usually do. Talk about some of the behind the scenes, because there is sort of a lot that got left out of this video. Given that, I did the project a year ago, there's a lot of technical details that got kind of glossed over. It's always hard with my videos I'm like trying to balance a line of like, I'm doing a lot of different kinds of projects. And so it's like there's camera people on my channel that know about cameras, and there's also people that don't. And it's like, I want the videos to be interesting to everybody. And I don't want to like shoebox myself as a camera channel. So I try not to dive too much into the technical side, but I can do that here on stream. It's fucking cute. It is. It is a tiny little adorable camera, and it has a flip up screen, which I think they did that on the new Insta360 that just came out, the Ace or whatever. They put a flip up screen on it, but for the longest time, this was the only small form factor camera like this with a with a flip up screen, and it's so adorable. I discovered your channel yesterday. I already seen all your videos. I'll be interested in your everyday carries and why. Awesome videos and vibe, my dude. Hell yeah. Thank you. Everyday carry is pretty light. I would love to get into like real like EDC nerd type stuff, like carrying a flashlight and a pocket knife and stuff. But these days it's pretty light. Wallet, chapstick, pocket notebook, pocket camera, keys. I used to have I've shown it on stream before. I don't know where it is right now, but I had a Swiss Army knife with my car keys and stuff on it. Like dremeled all the keys and stuck them on the Swiss Army knife. And I carried that for a while, but then it got annoying because it's like when I go to concerts or sports games or whatever and they take stuff off of you, it's like I have to have my car keys, but there's also a knife attached to my car keys. So that was one disadvantage of that rig, that little setup. So now I just carry a normal key ring. But I did really enjoy the Swiss Army knife keys. It was just not practical for getting into places that don't want me to have a knife. I was actually very worried once I went to a concert in Chicago, and I almost got it taken off me. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get home? Because it was like midnight by the time we got out, maybe 1 a.m. And I had just gone to Chicago solo on a whim for a concert. And I was like, man, if they take my keys off me because there's a knife attached to it, I don't know what the hell I'm going to be able to do. Chase says this thumbnail is literally photographed by Nickelback. Oh no, I got to change it. You're doing awesome, bud. Find your inspiration in your vids all the time. Thanks for nerding out and lens with me. Hell yeah. Yeah, there's a couple more I want to try out. There's CS mount lenses, which is the same C mount screw, but it's a closer flange distance. They're mostly for machine stuff, little microscope lenses and such. And so I would love to try to mod out a camera. I might do it with this one to be CS mount instead of C, so it's a closer flange distance, and I can adapt to like literally any lens. Like you can adapt almost any lens to regular mirrorless flange distance, but CS is like 5 millimeters back from that, so you got even more room to mess with stuff. They have those key organizers that are basically a Swiss Army knife for keys. Sadly, they're significantly less cool and useful without the knife. Yeah. I am interested to try one of those or make one of those myself, though. Hello, Evan. Found your channel a week ago and really enjoy your work. You've inspired me to become more DIY, and honestly, I thank you for that. Love from Eastern Europe. Hell yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. Spread the message that it's okay to be bad at stuff and try things and just screw it up. As long as you don't cut off any fingers, you know. There's a reason I'm not using like table saws and stuff in my videos because like, you know, I don't want to inspire somebody to go like, you know, be like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's okay to make mistakes. And then it's like somebody cuts off their finger because of that. So, you know, it's all pretty low pressure as long as you don't hurt yourself with power tools. Also, apologies for the mic clipping. I have the gain set higher because I'm not using the compressor this time to try to avoid some of the CRT noise. What phone do you carry, and do you put any thought into your phone camera? My phone is usually the only camera I have on me, and I hate the baked-in AI and HDR that can't be turned off. Yeah, I generally find phone cameras to be just boring. The Sony one is interesting, but I don't know that I'd ever like actually spend that much on a phone. Yeah, it's like it gets good footage if you're in a pinch and you need something to just like turn on and you get something usable. But for any kind of artful shooting, I just find it a little boring. I carry an iPhone just because, I don't know, iMessage. It's beat to hell. Very broken, and my lens. I bought the 13 Pro when it came out. There's a funny story, but it won't focus. Anyway, you get the idea. This one's broken. I bought the 13 Pro, so you pay like an extra $200 to have the telephoto lens, and then my telephoto lens broke. Yeah. It's actually, I didn't realize it until later, because this thing just broke, and I was like, oh, I wonder how that happened. I found out what the cause of it breaking was later, and it's actually on my channel. Or wait, no, not on this channel. It's on my second channel. Secret second channel, by the way, if you're not in the loop. Let's pull this sucker up. How do I do that? Right monitor. There's a video on this channel. The channel is Bevman, by the way. This is where I dump random stuff, and also the it's a little, still got resolution stuff to figure out. Fit to screen. There we go. Yeah, this is where I post my random the songs that I make for my videos, and also just random other junk. Where is this video? The Atom Smasher. This is a little vlog I made on a point and shoot. Not even the good point and shoot. This one, the one that I've had since I was like 13 years old, the old Power Shot. I didn't have a good editing laptop at this time, so I made this whole like vlog thing on this camera in like 480p. So that I could edit it off of my crappy laptop. So this is the story of me and my buddy Nathaniel driving from Bloomington, Indiana to Pittsburgh. And then there's another one of us in New York. It's just goofy, but I edited it on the road in New York. And somewhere in this video, very roundabout, this is the moment that my iPhone broke. So I had all these tools on the hood of my car, and I pull it out. And you see everything fall off there? My phone was on there. And they all fall into the gravel. And so that is the moment that my phone broke. I realized later on was it falling into the gravel off of the hood of my car. That's so painful to watch. Yeah. But, whatever. I don't use the phone camera much anyway these days, so it is what it is. Behind on the chat. Let's see. I wanted to pick up a few of the Ace Pros to try on the drones, but the lens glass is non-replaceable. Interesting. I mean, you could put C-mounts on it. I know you've done that before. Although that's pretty painful. What do those Ace Pros go for now? They're like a $700 camera or something like that. Tear it open right away. Yeah, the 1-inch Insta360 that I modded. Here it is. Yay. With the terrible bloomy lens and bad colors. It was like $1,000 if you bought it new. And I was looking for the original plan. I had this 360 camera for a different project that I never ended up doing. I don't really have a use for 360, but I was going to do like some photography with it, doing weird 360 stuff. And so I had this. And so in theory, I could have just bought the 1-inch module and done it with the 1R instead of the newer 1RS. And I was looking on eBay for the lens modules, but the way that they like market and the way their products are named is like kind of confusing. And so it's hard to tell like what's the module and what's the camera and what the prices are for these things. And so somebody had listed their 1RS with the 1-inch module for like roughly the price of just the module. So I picked that up and got a pretty good deal on the module plus the new camera. and I got the cage with that. So if I hadn't have found that deal, I might have not done the project, because I could justify spending like $600 on it, but not 600 plus the 300 for the mod kit. But if the camera itself was $1,000, it's like, that's a lot. It was a lot regardless, but did I get to I go on so many tangents. Did I get to the point I was trying to make there about Ace Pro? Oh yeah, that I modded a pretty expensive camera. But the nice thing about the modular design of this is, like, worst case, I screwed up the module and the processing unit and the battery are still worth something. So it's like, you can say I ruined a $1,000 camera, but I actually just ruined the $500 part of it. And I would argue I didn't ruin anything. It's pretty sick. I don't really use action cameras normally. Like, I wouldn't use it stock. Make a key organizer with your leather skills. Would love to watch your approach. Yeah, that would be interesting. Since I've been carrying a regular key ring, though, I don't mind it too much. I wear, like, cargo pants every day now, so I have enough pockets to, got to be careful about showing my keys. People can duplicate that. So it doesn't take up much space in my pockets now, so I don't really mind having a regular key ring. When's the setup tour coming? I would be interested in all the details and how it's all set up. I will do something like that before I move out. I got like 6 weeks left until I'm moving, which is going to be crazy. But at some point before I tear it all down here, I'm going to do a setup tour of this. And then there will be another video kind of resetting it up in the new place. And then about 6 months after that, I'm moving again and we'll set it all up again. So, in the next, in the summer, in the spring and summer, you'll get a very good look into how everything is set up. And a couple weeks from now, there'll be a kind of studio tour / teardown. The next video, unless it takes too long, I'm working on a video right now that should come out on Tuesday, but if it takes too long, I'll do another quick project, and this one will come out next Tuesday. The one I'm working on right now is this right here. This whole new 2x4 framed up sucker. I'm making a bunch of these. So there's one big frame down here. There's one stacked on top of it. There's going to be another one stacked on top of that. And then over here on this section of shelf, there's going to be one down here, one in here that holds these metal drawers, and one up here that holds all that stuff. So there's going to be a total of 6 of these boxes that's going to form this whole modular shelf wall. And so you'll get kind of a look into this whole mess more in this upcoming week's video. But understandably, that whole thing is going to take a while. I've got 5 days until that video needs to go up. So it's like, we'll see if it comes out this week or the week after that, and I fill in with a smaller project. We'll see. But I'm very excited about this. I actually have another camera powered on right now. Do I? Oh, my macro pad is unplugged. Let's do it manual. Nope, that's the top camera. There it is. The FX30 is trained on. The white balance is terrible, but you can see what I'm talking about over here with this whole setup. So the shelves behind it, all of their contents are going to get kind of transferred over to this new modular shelf setup, and it's going to be a lot easier for moving. I'm designing it with the purpose of being mobile. So the idea is like, all this random like paint and junk gets moved onto this thing, and then that whole section lifts off. And I'm hoping for the move, I'm just going to like saran wrap this whole thing with everything on it, and then move each chunk individually without having to take everything off and move the shelves separate. So that's why I'm doing this now right before moving. But yeah, setup tour there'll be a lot more stuff about all this, because I realize like a lot of my content recently has been a lot of close-ups right here. And it's like you don't see the whole picture very much outside of the streams. Looking to buy some of my first power tools. Any tips / must-haves? I mean, definitely just a regular drill driver is the number one, right? I would maybe recommend. So, drill drivers these days obviously only exist in battery. There's no really wall plug-in ones anymore. For tools like, specialty tools like jigsaws, routers, I would maybe recommend getting a wall plug-in so you don't have to be like too stuck in one battery platform. It depends on what stuff you're going to be doing. So like if you want a circular saw at some point, the circular saw is probably going to be 12 or 20 volt. And so if you're buying into a 20 volt platform, you got to be thinking about that for your drill drivers. Even though like I actually prefer a 12 volt drill driver. So it's kind of a weird thing where like my setup right now is like I have 12 volt Milwaukee and 20 volt DeWalt. So stuff like my oscillating tool is on 20 volt DeWalt. The circular saw is 20 volt DeWalt, but my drill and driver are Milwaukee 12. So if you're planning on just using a drill and driver and some basic tools to start, and you don't need a circular saw anytime soon, I would just buy into 12 volt. Depending on your budget, I would avoid the Harbor Freight super cheap stuff like the Warrior Orange, like $15 drill. I would avoid that unless you're only going to be using it to, hang paintings or something. But the like mid-tier Harbor Freight 20 volt is actually pretty good. The Bauer and the Hercules, those are like surprisingly reliable. Those still live in my car. So that's my car toolkit now is the Harbor Freight stuff. Cause if that gets broken into and stolen, I didn't lose as much. And it's less attractive to steal if it's not like a name brand. Yeah. So I don't know look at the, bundle packs. Like that's how I got into Milwaukee and into DeWalt is, bundle packs just have so much value, and you never know when you're like the Milwaukee pack I got was like, I don't know. I think my dad bought it for me as a Christmas gift, which was a very good gift. It was like a reciprocating saw, like the first power tools I ever got, reciprocating saw, a drill, a impact driver, and maybe like one of those crappy little flashlights. I think that was like, I don't know, $200, $250, something like that. So you can save a lot of money by buying the combo sets. And then for DeWalt, I spent like $400 on the pack with the oscillating saw, a drill, a driver, circular saw, and the flashlight, which they always throw in. So look at those value packs, see if there's a combo, get an orbital sander in there too. Anyway, that's enough rambling on power tools. Any philosophy on storage and organization? Currently going through the process of purging things, trying to be more realistic about stuff I need or still care to work on someday. Yeah, I'm still very early in that whole process. Like all of this, everything you see in the studio has kind of evolved over the past 3 years. So I'm still kind of early, where it's always been like expansion, like careful expansion. I don't want to expand too much and like need a giant studio space. I've always kind of operated out of like a 12 by 12 room. This is the biggest floor space I've ever had. This is like a 15 by 13 room. So I've always operated out of kind of a small space. So I've tried to like organize things very vertically and keep everything accessible. Try not to stack too many boxes behind each other and stuff. What was the question? Philosophy on storage and organization and purging things. Yeah, purging things is tough. I've just recently gotten rid of some stuff. I honestly don't have any good tips because I'm still figuring this out myself. I guess one thing that I do is like, specialty projects, like say leatherworking, I hadn't touched in a while until recently. So all that was in its own box. And at some point it's like, if you have specialty tools or materials that have been in a box for years, at some point it's like, does this need to find a better home? But I have a little bit of hoarder tendencies and I have a tough time getting rid of stuff. But I did just get rid of a lot of old, like, car parts that I was like holding on to for some reason. And what else did I get rid of? Some scrap materials that I was like, I hold on to a lot of scrap wood for when things come up like this whole project. But recently I got rid of some like MDF, like compressed particle board stuff, because I just don't end up using that as much as real, like actual grain wood. I don't know. I guess my only tips is be careful about what you're buying. Try not to acquire too much, but I don't know. Why do you have the moving you're going to do after you moved already in schedule? Because my lease is ending here at the end of March, and the actual next place I'm settling doesn't start until June. So I've got this weird like 4-month interim period where I'm just going to go back and set up in my parents' basement because that's a place I can chill for 4 months without having to sign anything. So it's actually like this studio ends at the end of March. The new one starts in summer. And so I've just got this weird waiting period between. So that's sort of part of the reason that I'm building all this with the intention of being able to move, because I know I'm moving twice this year. Your office is a bit like my bedroom, an extremely organized mess. Love it. Exactly. If you considered getting into 3D printing, I feel like you'd click with that really well. Yeah, I was big into 3D printing like in the real early days. Like, when 3D printers were like $10,000. My school, I went to high school in a small town, but a town that had like some orthopedic industry in it. And so the orthopedic companies kind of trying to get these kids into engineering so that they would come do, engineer replacement hips for them and stuff. And so they bought a bunch of 3D printers for the high school to try to get kids into that. So I was messing around with that stuff pretty early, like 2014, 2015, something like that. And it was fun because I didn't have like power tools or anything at that time. So it was like my outlet for designing things was all digital. So I got really into Photoshop. I started learning video editing and I learned some CAD. But now, like in the past 5 years that I've like had power tools and like my own space to work, I've just been diving really deep into the tactile world of like, just designing things with my hands rather than a mouse and keyboard. So it's just something that I've swung away from. Not that I won't come back to it, but also it's just a little tough it's just another big thing that exists on a desk. And it's like, I just don't have much space right now, or money for that matter. So I'm just not that familiar with what's going on in the 3D printing world right now. Frankly, like, I don't know what the good printers are. I don't know how much things cost. But it's definitely something I'll dive back into probably in the next year or two, once I've got a little space and I'm more settled in. IMO, if you need to hook up dust collection, sanding, bigger saw jobs get corded anyway, since you're going to be tethered by the vacuum hose. That's true. That's true. I was actually looking for a corded circular saw, but not that many companies even make them anymore. I don't know if DeWalt has a corded circular saw. I'm not sure, but yeah, corded's good. Like I'm all for not tying yourself down into a battery system for sure. So like the palm sander I use right there, still corded. The router, which is right there, still corded. Yeah, corded tools are sick. And yeah, good point about the vacuum hose. Hey, I currently have an ADD in my iPhone. So much prefer the phone for shooting because it's so much easier. Can't afford a rig for it, so going to build a DIY one inspired by this video. So thanks. Hell yeah, I love to hear that. Yeah, the ADD is still pretty cool too, though. It's a good way to learn and get into the apertures and the ISOs and all that. Yeah, it's interesting that you prefer the I guess the iPhone, does 4K and the ADD doesn't do 4K, does it? Yeah, depending on what lenses you have, the iPhone might be better. I don't know. It all depends on what you want. Got any tips for making a custom rig? Not so much technical, but the mindset I need to get into, have access to tools and materials through tool share program locally, which is groovy. Yeah, I would start with, for a phone rig you're talking about, I would build it off of a case. Like find a phone case, maybe even like an OtterBox or something like super solid, and kind of tap into that rather than trying to, because I feel like the tolerances are so tight on getting a phone to fit in and not rattle. And so like you might be best off building around like a case that already has the rubber bits molded to the exact size you need. That might be a good way to start. Build off that. What would you want on a phone? Like a mic mount, stuff like that. Maybe a battery mount. Yeah, I don't know. The way I would approach it is just starting with a phone case, stick a little slab of, 1/2-inch plywood or something on it, and just start going to town mounting stuff on it. That's what I would do. And make like a nice beefy handle. That'd be sick. Hey bud, just recently discovered you and I'm so glad I did. I was watching videos in a similar style 10 to 15 years ago and they slowly disappeared. So nice to have you around. Yeah, I do feel like there's sort of a pendulum swinging on YouTube of like very raw and slow paced, authentic stuff. And then it goes to, Mr. Beast and insane high production value stuff. And then maybe it's swinging back a little bit where stuff like mine is starting to work again, of like slower paced, just more raw and story driven stuff. And I love to see that. I love to see that people are looking for that kind of content too, because it's what I like to make. That's so cool. My school had a toaster. It was broken, but we had it. No 3D printers though. Yeah, we were lucky. My engineering teachers were so cool. It was really a good thing to have access to in high school. Even though like I didn't end up going into engineering in college, it was a really good experience. Just like that, I have a touch point with CAD. Like I could pick up Autodesk Inventor right now and like make something simple. So I'm very grateful for the fact that my random small town happened to get 3D printers off of an orthopedic company. Colt's here. What's up? The Evan era is upon us. Hell yeah. Good to see you here, brother. Where was I? Skill still does a bomb worm drive saw. Ooh, interesting. On the custom action camera, how much of the vintage look / color came from the lens versus the color grading you didn't post? A lot of it's from the lens, actually. Some shots I can pull up. My stream always lags out when I pull up DaVinci and OBS at the same time. But most of the color grading was fixing white balance, because the white balance is so weird on the camera. Fixing white balance, messing with curves. But as for like my normal footage in the studio, I use a LUT that I've made that like, just tweaks the colors in a weird way that, just subtly changes things up. And I did not use that on the Insta360. So there's not like any complex color grading going on. It's just curves and white balance. I think that's it really. Saturation, messing around with that. Because since it is an action camera, like the image comes out pretty vibrant and contrasty. And so I had to mess with all that. But most of the look comes from the lenses and just the weird flares and stuff that comes out of that. And I think part of the look might be from, I feel like there might be like tiny amounts of light leaks or some weird thing with the sensor or the IR filter. Something weird is going on in there because the images out of it look weird. I think part of the look came unintentionally from all of the footage by default because of the weird white balance came out pink. And in me trying to correct it back from pink, it's like some of the red stays in the shadows and stuff like that. And so it does look kind of filmic. So it's a weird combination, but it's not like super stylized color grade, if that's what you're asking. If you're looking for a corded circular, spend the extra money and get a track saw. Yeah, track saws are sick. I just don't have the spec because like I'm realistically not using a circular saw in my apartment that much. I'll go out to the car and use it there. It's like, so I want it to be somewhat compact, but at some point a track saw, totally the move. How much time do you think the move will require? That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm going to do it kind of in increments, and there's just as much stuff in the next room. There's like an attached tiny bedroom. It's like a 500 square foot apartment. So it's like this room and then a bedroom that's pretty small. And that is full of stuff. So I'm going to do incremental moves for the next 6 weeks or so. I'm going to be running back and forth. But it's easily going to be, 6 or 7, maybe full car loads, truck loads, van loads. We'll see. This is one random thing that I'm going to move. This table came out recently. I was using it to build this stuff because it's not as nice to assemble that kind of thing on the floor on a carpet and then your stuff is moving around. But there's also not enough space to do it on this one because this is only a 2-foot depth table. So I pulled this thing out to do some framing of my 2x4s. So that thing's got to get moved. There's just so many big pieces of furniture. But once I get these modular shelves built and all of these items transferred onto it, I should have a much easier time of moving, because to move all of these things, I need to like unload the items and then move the shelves separately. But having these modular things that can come apart, I should be able to move the shelves with the stuff on them by just saran wrapping everything up. But we'll see. The move's probably going to be hell. And doing videos weekly during the move, it's going to be a challenge. But we'll see. I'm not going to break the streak. And if I do, you can berate me. For phone rigs, the Tilta Chronos is about to launch, and that looks amazing. Interesting. I'm not super familiar, but Tilta's a good brand. Corded is so good. So many tools need the extra amps to do their job. Got to have it on my angle grinder. Interesting. Yeah, I should have bought a corded angle grinder, but I bought one of the Harbor Freight ones, and it hasn't died yet. So, love your vids. First time catching a live stream. Keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. Best vintage lens finds. I have tons of vintage stores around me, but they're all full of EFS lenses these days. Yeah, you might. Like a vintage, like an antique store has EFS lenses, or like a camera store. Camera stores, like dedicated local camera stores, if you have any of them, they're rarer these days, but they're such a good place to go. And a lot of them, they won't display, the weird stuff. Some of them, the camera store that I really like in Indianapolis, which is where I'm moving, Roberts, they have a bin or several bins of old lenses, and they just price them all at $10. That's awesome. But like other camera stores I've been to, like you can ask them about like, hey, do you have any weird like C-mount old film lenses in the back? And some of them do. That's how I got this thing, which is effectively just a tiny little macro C-mount or D-mount lens actually. And I got that by going to a random camera store and like asking, hey, show me the weird stuff that you don't have on display. Best vintage lens finds though, for honestly, some of the best vintage lenses I have ended up with me from like old film cameras. So like this was my great grandfather's film camera lens. And I love this thing. My dad did a film photography class in college, and I kind of stole his his film camera, which that'll be a video at some point, is getting that thing running again, because I want to start diving into film photography a little bit. But this thing came off of that, which is a 50 millimeter f2, and this thing is so solid. I'm pretty sure I used it for some of the footage that I recorded like a year ago for the Insta360 vid, because it was like my only longer focal length bright lens at the time. So that thing's killer. I always loved this. This one is a old Canon FD 28 to 55. It's not that great of a lens, but it has a soft spot in my heart just because this was like the first actual SLR lens that I got. The first lens I got was the C-mount 35 millimeter, which was a recommendation from DSLR video shooter video where he was talking about the EOS M, and that thing was like $20. But then I started buying random vintage SLR lenses, and I found this one, 28 to 55, just a weird little kind of kit zoom type thing. And this was living on my only camera for the longest time, and it's got some spray paint on it, which is a good little memory. Let's see. Hey, Evan, today's a great day. It's Friday, and I'm one step from taking a rest from school. Is it already Friday over in Germany or wherever? Yeah, I guess it is past midnight in Europe, isn't it? Break from school. Is it spring break soon? Big. Everyday practical engineering is undervalued in this day and age. Truth. Just being able to fix stuff. It's an undervalued skill. And it's really fulfilling to know how to do just random stuff. It's like I get ambitious with the projects I do here, and I'm not good at them a lot of times. Like I feel like a lot of my videos end up being like, I tried to do this crazy thing, and I kind of screwed it up, but it was still kind of cool. Like that's the summation of most of my videos. But then it's like just giving it your all and trying random things like that. You get comfortable with the easy stuff pretty quickly, and now it's like I can do all kinds of random stuff, and it's like, you know, I'm the one in the friend group that does, you know, I'm the one people ask about random things, even if I'm not that great at anything specifically. It's cool to be able to just kind of be able to work with your hands and do random stuff like you know, fixing a light switch or something, or, you know, mounting shelves, doing basic car maintenance. Yeah, car maintenance is a really empowering thing to know. Funny enough, lithium-ion based tools can give more amperage than the wall can. Interesting. Damn, I love the way that footage came out. It really did have an old school look. Good. Cool to hear it came from the camera like that. Yeah, mostly. I'll see if I can pull up the... I don't like pulling up DaVinci on stream because it lags out OBS, but I might try to. Good morning, good evening, Evan. I can't read. What's up, Jurian? Make sure you got plenty of smaller content in the backlog for that move period. That's the plan, I think. Try to make a lot of smaller stuff. But the problem is I've also got bigger content that I need to do in that time frame. Gonna potentially be, I need to call Trent, doing a collaboration with Miscast at at Adepticon in Chicago, which is at the end of March, which is like right when I'm moving. So I need to build this injection molder by then while I'm also moving at the same time. And it's like, it's a fun challenge. I'm not going to miss it, but there's bigger projects that are, I can't just make 10 tiny projects and coast while I'm moving. There's other stuff in between. But yeah, I do want to try to make a bunch of shorter stuff. And like, I've been trying to get more comfortable with a little lighter videos. Like the past 2 weeks before this Insta360 video, before the Tiny Cam video, like the on the road repair was a pretty chill video. And then the workbench improvements, they're both pretty chill and short vids. And maybe I even make more stuff like the 10 favorite tools of 2023, just kind of summation videos that aren't actually a project in themselves. But at the same time, I don't want to dilute the channel with too many, tiny little 3-minute projects or something. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the key to getting this move done is going to be, I need to be like 2 weeks ahead on content by the second week of March. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'll hopefully do a bunch of easier projects after I say that, but the next project I'm working on is freaking huge, rebuilding my entire shelf wall. I have a problem scaling down. We'll see. How much patching do you think you'll have to do since everything must be hard fixed to its surface? I imagine it's secured to the walls and floor. No, nothing's... I don't think I've put any holes in the wall in this apartment. This is all just kind of standing on each other. Although I can't wait for like when I own my own property, when I own a house or something, everything's getting hard mounted. Unless I have a wife at that time that tells me no. I need to have a separate work house that I'm allowed to do whatever. It's kind of funny. I was just watching an Adam Savage tested video, and he was talking about how his wife rarely comes by his workshop because it stresses her out, but she's glad he has it because it keeps all of his insane workshop tendencies out of the house. So we'll see. But whenever I buy a house one day, I want to just like hard mount everything to the studs, just build everything into the walls, and it'll be sick. But no, in this apartment, I didn't really do too many. Yeah, I don't think I did anything irreparable. I did take all of the cabinet doors off in the kitchen because I used a lot of that for tools, not kitchen equipment. So I took the cabinet doors off the kitchen. I got to put those back on. And then I took the light bulb. I had these like terribly dated looking dome light things in the ceiling, and I took off all those. So it's just bare light bulbs. So there's a couple things I have to reverse, but nothing too crazy for the move out. Potentially, I have to find some paint that matches this wall because there's a touch of spray paint overspray on this windowsill here. But at the same time, this is a very old, crappy apartment, and they're about to renovate it. So, like, I don't know if they care that much. Like, when I moved in, there's literally cigarette burn marks in the carpet in my apartment, which is, that's what you get living in a cheap apartment in a poor neighborhood. if you're ever in Seattle, Glazers is huge and all the people there really know their shit. Is that a camera store? I will check it out if I'm ever in Seattle. Never been that far out west, but I would like to. I just read that one. It was nice watching the stream. I'm going to bed now. It's 1 a.m. Peace. Thank you for hanging out. I might try streaming earlier at some point. There's a lot of like experimentation I want to do, but it's just like the next 6 weeks are me just kind of locking in on the current process and going until I move out. And then like come April, May, I can get to experimentation again once I've got a little bit of room to breathe and I don't have this massive move hanging over my head. Yeah. I like vintage / 2000 color correction much. Yes, it is nice. I found your channel recently and I absolutely enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I live in the corner of Russia. Time zone is plus 1100 GMT. I don't remember off the top of my head where I am off GMT, but I assume you're like 12 hours flipped from me or something. Actually, let's look it up because I'm curious. Always got to learn. I like to think I'm good with geography, but I'm not in reality. Time zone. Let's look at time zones. So it's 11 a.m. for you right now. Wow. Yeah, it's 7 p.m. here in Ohio in the Midwest. By the way, the Shugu worked out not too bad. Rubber band was perfect. Oh, sick. I was consulting Chase on shoe repair. I used to be big into collectible sneakers, and nowadays not as much because I had my entire collection of sneakers got flooded in a basement that had a pipe burst. So a lot of my nice collectible sneakers got not destroyed, but not resellable anymore, and that kind of killed my passion of it for the moment, but I'll get back into it. One day I'll do a video about sneaker restoration and why I like collectible sneakers, because I think from the outside a lot of people view like sneaker culture as like, I don't know, just toxic and hype beasty and weird for just, I don't know. I think that happens with fashion in general, but I actually think it's a really interesting culture and design medium. So I would love to do a video on that at some point about like why I enjoy that as a culture and as a form of design. You doing what you post on FB is why you're different. It's great. Not everything has to be a big build and look perfect. It's great to see. It's great to see the small builds. Keep it up. Thank you. FB. Do you mean Facebook? You doing what you post on? I'm not sure what that means, but yes, I get the point. Not everything has to be a big build and look perfect. Yeah, I got to do some more small stuff. I just have to get over myself and convince myself that it's okay to have filler content for a month, or what I view as filler content. Because like realistically, people liked the workbench improvements video. People liked a lot. The on the road repair video people liked. So it's like not everyone has to be a big one. And slowly I grow more comfortable with that as I'm posting weekly. Most people can't operate a drill. Any level of skills you can learn from these hobbies will make you super useful to friends. Yeah, exactly. I wish, I mean, part of the message I'm trying to spread with this channel is like anybody can do a lot of stuff. It's like, it's not that scary. I'm excited to do more car maintenance stuff eventually. Of like, you know, it's crazy that not everybody does their own oil. Like, I guess if you, I don't know, just like a lot of stuff is a lot simpler and more approachable than it seems. It's really inspirational, and I love your attitude. It feels good when you find people like yourself. Hell yeah, thank you. Not FB, sorry, YouTube. Okay, that makes more sense. You ever use film cameras? No, but I have one, and I have one from my dad's college film class, and I've been meaning to get it up and running and shoot on it. There's some like expired film from, man, probably the late 90s or something like that. Very expired film that I want to shoot on, and there might even be a roll in the camera that's not developed, so that would be kind of fun. I have a film enlarger over in the corner over here that I could make prints with, and I want to get into film development. So once I've got a little space to, I'm moving to Indianapolis with my buddy who does a lot of film photography. He and I are going to build a film scanning rig soon. And then once I move in with him later in like June, July, something like that, I'm going to get into developing film. And so we can do the whole process ourselves, develop, scan, make prints. That's going to be a super sick thing to get into. But as of now, no, I don't really have experience with it. I love the on the road repair video for how quickly you turn it around. It was very interesting. Thank you. Yeah, I liked experimenting with the kind of more documentary, I guess, style of the first 2 minutes of that video where it's Michael shooting. And so it's not me, like, it's all handheld footage of me working instead of me shooting myself. Yo, how much did I miss? We've been going for an hour. Just hanging out, talking. We have not yet dove into the director's commentary of the vid, which I'll probably do in a second, actually, because I'm caught up on chat now. Hello, just finished up school for the week, 1:10 p.m. for me. Wow, 1:10 p.m. Where is that? Interesting. Yes, thanks for hanging out. Good to have you here. I'm going to pull up. Oh, New Zealand. Interesting. I'm going to pull up the Insta360 vid, and we are going to watch it and talk some BTS. Let's see. I got to make sure to turn my desktop audio on this time so you guys can actually hear it. Are you going to hang out in Discord VC by any chance? Not today, of course, but sometimes around weekends. Possibly, yes. There's a lot of expansion and experimentation stuff that I have planned that just like I'll start doing more kind of reaching out and experimenting in spring after this whole March is going to be insane for me. So I just don't have time to add other stuff in. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I could fit that in sooner. But like post-March, like April, May, in this weird interim period before I move to Indianapolis, like in between moves, I'm going to be working on some more experimenting stuff, trying new stuff on the channel, and, potentially getting like a Patreon or something like that set up, just doing a lot of other stuff tangential to the channel, and voice chat hangouts would be pretty sick. And at some point I also want to pull people in on stream, and we can talk about other stuff that I don't know as much about. I know at some point Scotty's going to come on and talk about drones, because that's an interesting thing. So, and also, another piece of that puzzle of like cementing out what the channel looks like outside of the videos is like doing streams that are like, instead of just hanging out, like my vision for what the streams will be is like an hour of hanging out, and then like I do 2 hours of like working on a project. So there's actually like a storyline or a point to the streams, instead of just going live for an hour or so and chatting. So yeah, lots of stuff like that I will eventually do. And voice chat will be definitely a part of that. Let's see. Unmute desktop audio. Switch to HDMI. Oh, this one's not full screen yet either. Transform. Fit to screen. There we are. I'm going to shrink this so I don't block too much of it. Zoom. Let's
is
see.
an action camera.
How's the audio
This is a
levels?
regular camera.
How we looking?
This is a compact camera.
Oop.
This is a big camera.
Audio levels decent. I'm gonna pull up my own stream so I can check actually. To record on a project, so there's actually like to record on a project own streams.
This is a compact.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yo, Josh, what's up? Just dropping in to say hi in Discord server. Let's go. Yep. We got a Discord up and running now. Join that if you want. Lots of cool people hanging out in there. Do I still have my... Yes, I do. Lots of cool people hanging out in here. All sorts of channels, new channels, music recommendations, and music production stuff, video sharing, cars, wood, all kinds of stuff. What is this? Clutch pencil, 5.6 millimeter lead. That's actually sick. I've never heard of that. Oh, it has an actual clutch in it. Okay, I gotta check all this stuff later. But yeah, Discord's been super cool, and we just added some new channels.
This is an even bigger.
All right.
This is
Director's
an action
commentary.
camera. This is a regular camera.
So you may have pieced together this is the 1R, not the 1RS, because I'm filming this present day. So all of this is filmed after the mod, because I didn't have any of these cameras when I did the mod. So this is just a second Insta360 that I have laying around, because like I talked about before, I found a good deal on the second one. I was planning to buy just the lens module, but then it ended up being the whole camera. So I have the second one, which ended up being useful for getting this footage.
This is a compact camera. This is a big camera.
EOS 5D Mark III, the classic that Casey vlogged on for a while. I haven't really used that yet, but it's cool. I'm probably going to set it. I have a plan for what I'm going to do with that one.
This is an even bigger camera.
That one I also don't really use. It's very old. I plug it into the CRTs sometimes. The CRTs aren't in frame anymore. I plug it into the CRTs sometime to, it does like a live readout, which is kind of a cool vibe.
The action camera is tiny, and yet technically it films in the highest resolution of all of these.
This is true, but not. It films in 5.3K. The FX30 is the only other camera on the table that films in 4K, but the FX30 does just way higher bit rate, better color depth, all kinds of better stuff.
Though worse quality. When I got my first real camera, I was obsessed with these tiny C-mount lenses, and I've always wanted to try putting them on an action camera to get a bit of that big camera flair in a super compact form factor. This particular action camera has a 1-inch sensor, more than double a GoPro's. Big sensor in a tiny camera. We like that. Now, this project footage is from...
I did have footage of what it looked like before, like what the footage looks like before I did the mod. But really, I didn't have as many clips as I wanted to be able to do a before and after thing, because I really did kind of buy this thing and immediately crack it open.
Now, this project footage is from almost a year and a half ago, and at that point, this was the most expensive camera I'd ever bought, and I'd never opened a camera before.
This is true. The only other camera I had was the EOS M, which was like $200, the M50, which was like $600, and then this one was like $800 or something like that, and I just cracked it open.
Nice. This was a silly idea in many regards. I should have just bought a nice lens instead. At the time, I was mostly just using the kit lens on my M50, but
that's a kit lens. It's the kit lens with the wide angle adapter on it, which ended up being the reason it broke, because this puts so much weight on the zoom barrel that like this thing fell off a tripod at some point, and just the weight of this hitting the ground just cracked the whole zoom mechanism. There's just terrible lens flares that happen with that. It was not a good setup, but it got the job done.
On my M50, But curiosity got the best of me and I just went for it. The goal is to remove the sensor so I can rehouse it, and with the adhesive softened and the body cracked open, I thought I was past the hard part. But my battles with excessive glue had only just started.
So much
I was
glue.
following a guide from a company called Backbone that makes modification kits for these action.
Backbone, such a cool company and service. They don't make the one for the Insta360 anymore, which is probably because not that many people wanted it because it doesn't have HDMI. They still make the GoPro ones, but now you can't get the Insta360 ones anymore. Like I said earlier, GoPro has a much smaller sensor, which makes adapting lenses harder, but it has HDMI, so you can actually monitor it.
Cameras. But their disassembly guide was for the first generation Insta360 1R. I had the 1RS, which apparently had the sensor glued in place in addition to the screws. If I scratch the sensor here, the project is basically ruined.
I got one side freed. Just have to work it real slow and just take off little bits as I can. Yeah, so this was tough because like in the guide it says pull the screws and then just take the sensor off. It wasn't glued on the model that they did the tutorial on. So that was annoying.
I also can't really use much heat here for fear of screwing up the ribbon cable. But after a good chunk of time carefully chipping and prying...
Oh, there we go. There's like 30 minutes of footage between those two clips of just like me just slowly, because I didn't want to pry it too hard and break the whole sensor, because like effectively I paid $500 for that sensor. Like none of the other stuff I was going to reuse. It was all for the sensor. That is a sensor. Yeah, so they just applied a ton of glue across this side and over here. So now I've already done the hard stuff. The screws are out. I should be able to pull this out now. Oh no, unless they started putting glue in this too. That's not fun. Not very fun of you, Insta360. Yeah, so I didn't explain this exactly, but the reason I have to put an IR filter back in, the reason why the kit comes with an IR filter is because it's built into the lens. So I think this sheet here is the IR filter. So when you pull it, if you don't add a new one, you'll get the infrared light in there, which makes the image look crazy. Some people do that intentionally to get weird looking color rendering, but not what I was going for. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big a fan are you of Van and Casey Neistat? It's pretty obvious. I mean, they're some of my favorite YouTubers, period, right? Like Casey just unlocked a whole world in my head of like, oh, you can do that? You can you can build shelves up to the ceiling and, just... Yeah, I mean, it unlocked a whole new world of possibilities for me. And Van is clearly a big inspiration of like the way I'm structuring my content now. And I think, maybe some of my older videos read more as like a direct spirited man thing, but I'm developing my own style now. Hopefully not ripping on his thing too much, but I enjoy his content a lot, and mainly it was good to see that like people wanted that, right? Because I was trying to make like quicker paced stuff before, and it was really good to see Van succeed and be like, oh wait, people want the slower paced stuff too, because that's just the way that I always felt my voice and presentation style kind of lended itself to. They both draw so much from the artist Tom Sachs. Yeah. It blocks I can't see the corner of the screen. Tom Sachs is sick too. Like the installation art he's done with like, some of my favorites are like the Chanel chainsaw, stuff like that. Just the juxtaposition of like really DIY stuff with really like posh or advanced things like the NASA stuff. Like it's so interesting. Everyone gets inspired by someone else. Casey's studio looks like Tom Sachs' studio. Exactly. Yeah. I'm betting they just started to apply glue around the edge of the lens here. So hopefully, I've checked out some Van Neistat videos due to you. I've never before watched any videos from the Neistat brothers, but I liked them. Yeah, they're freaking awesome. It's been sick to see Casey posting more frequently again. He just posted today, actually, and it was like a really potent and cool video about almost a mini doc about his marathon journey. It's a good watch. Just give it oh, there we go. Just a little bit of persuasion. And now we can take our little sensor. Yeah, so I put it in this little bag to protect it. And we have an empty housing.
The only part of this module I'm going to reuse is the sensor itself, putting it in the new backbone housing. I just need to clean up a bit of the glue to make sure the sensor sits flush. I didn't know what I was hoping to get out of this project or what my use case for this tiny camera rig would even be, but I liked the idea too much to not do it and see what happens.
I didn't touch on it in the video, but the build quality of the backbone rig is like insane. Like the default body for the sensor is, just plastic injection molded, but the backbone rig is completely milled out of aluminum. Like it's freaking awesome.
I've always valued the fun factor of a camera over its actual specs, and this is a prime example of that.
Casey's studio looks like Vans, which looks like Tom Sachs. Yeah, exactly. I mean, to some degree, like every maker's studio, the style is born out of utility, which I think is the coolest style, is when something just clearly shouts the method that it was made and the reason it exists. Like, I don't like a lot of minimalist designs as much, where it's like, I like minimalism in the sense of like stripping away unnecessary elements, but I don't like the extreme of like trying to hide necessary elements. I like having all of the materials of the evidence of construction and its use case displayed clearly on the object.
In theory, if this works, it should be totally usable.
This I didn't touch on in the voiceover, but I had to file down
5.3
this section of the pins
video with manual focus lenses
so that it'll fit into here.
But for the price of the $600 camera and $300 mod kit, I could have just bought a ready-made reliable camera. The dream with this rig, though, was to have super high...
There's also foam pieces that go in here that isolate everything and keep it nice. Really well put together kit. I mean, it is an expensive kit. It was like $300, but like totally worth it, especially for the small production runs that they're doing. Like Backbone I don't think they're a big company. They're doing little runs of these things, and it's really cool that a company like that is able to do little mod kits for hobbyists like that.
Quality, crisp video that I can have in my pocket at all times. And also just to have a weird setup that most people have never seen before. After attaching the battery clip-in points, all I had left to do was install the infrared filter. This stops any non-visible light from reaching the sensor and screwing up the image. Then comes the C-mount plate, which allows me to screw my lenses on. With this installed, I should be able to do my first operational test and see if the camera still works at all. The nice thing is this camera has a modular design, so worst case, I just screwed up the lens module and I can get a new one. But that was the most expensive part, so here's hoping. Lens cap is on. With the trusty 35mm, we should get something.
That 35mm unfortunately doesn't work anymore. Something like loosened in it, and now it's like some element is off. I need to try to fix it, but I don't actually use that lens enough to warrant spending too much time on it. So it's kind of stuck as like a macro focus now. It's also funny that cut where I put the 35 millimeter on and start shooting with it. It's a different clip. I'm not sure what the timeline was on it because it's so long ago. But like, because I pull it up and shoot, and then there's this clip, but now the 35 millimeter is on this camera. So this was a different lens, but I think it was like the same day. This was actually the first test shot. I think I just didn't hit record in that other clip.
That's crazy. This is an action camera. Preliminary tests are
Yeah, so like in those shots, we were talking about color grading earlier, and there's like very minimal color grading on this. It's just white balance correction and curves, basically.
That's crazy. This is an action camera.
You also see sort of a sneak, an earlier peek at my current
Preliminary tests
wall of shelves.
are a success, although a bit shaky and terrible audio. I've got to rig this thing out and then test it in proper light. With the modded lens, it doesn't fit into the cage I have. After discovering that
Lots of halos looks great. Yeah, that's the vintage lenses at work doing their flary thing.
filing this thing down would take far too long, I moved the whole setup out to the garage. This is filmed on the modded action camera. The garage was not very well lit, so this sort of functioned as an early low light test.
So I believe this was the f1.6, like 12 millimeter or whatever.
For this shot, the action camera is actually sitting on the light switch for the garage. Positioning is definitely an advantage of a small camera. After the modifications, the cage looks pretty good, and the footage does too, but we'll get a proper test when it's finished.
I think that was actually the first time I'd ever used an angle grinder. Was that clip there. I think I just bought it at the time. I can't remember what I bought it for. There was some metal thing I had to cut. But yeah, I think that was the first time I'd used that angle grinder. Because when all of this is happening, this is a year and a half ago, I was working at Harbor Freight. And so I was just kind of buying tools on employee discount that I knew I would want later. Bokeh balls. Yes, Chase, bokeh balls.
Adding the cage to the setup will allow me to mount microphones and also add a bit of weight for some stabilization. To get audio in, I need to use this weird dongle
Hey, Evan, what's up? What's up? Clear Focus Films.
thing, and it doesn't fit with the cage in the way. As usual, my solution is to tear it apart and start cutting stuff. It's funny to see sometimes how much wasted space there is in things like this, and how much you can minimize with a pretty simple process.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like I did much there, but what I did is I cut, and then there's probably like a couple millimeters on the sides of the circuit board that there was no contacts running through them at all. So I was able to just shave down the circuit board, which is funny, not something that you can usually do. And then I kind of glued back on the cap so it would still be weather sealed. So I chopped definitely a solid chunk of millimeters off this thing.
Not the prettiest fix, but a simple one. I cut the cage a bit too, and now it fits
So
beautiful.
I got it skinny enough to fit between the main frame bars, and then I just cut out the little bit that was here, and I sanded down the top so that it would look not as terrible. Not sure the geography of Ohio, but I'm going to be in Cincinnati for a day this weekend. Cincinnati's a fun town. I was there for a bike race a couple months ago with my buddy Chase, filming a little bit. But yeah, that's a lot farther south. It's closer to Bloomington, Indiana, where I used to live, which is where this video was shot, actually. I was worried if I would miss the live stream because I was I can't read right now, because I was on a late hour-long drive to Newaygo, Michigan. Glad I could tune in for at least a little bit. Hell yeah. Michigan is a beautiful place. Where's Newaygo? I'm Googling it because I've been a lot of places in Michigan, and that sounds familiar, but I can't place it in my mind. Oh, yeah. Yeah, a little north of Grand Rapids. I used to go to, when I did a year and a half of college, I was doing college in Grand Rapids, and we go out and vacation with the extended family every once in a while on kind of that west shore of Lake Michigan. It's a beautiful area. I lost my tab. There we are.
I also switched out the C-mount lens plate.
That's my hometown, good old GR. Yeah, I wish I had a car at that time. It was like, I went to Calvin University up there, and that was like a weird, like one of those private school situations where you can't, they don't want you to have a car for some reason as you're an undergrad. So I didn't have a car, so I never got to explore Grand Rapids that much because that campus is so secluded. I wish I'd gone to a public school where I could have like explored. That campus is in like the middle of a suburb, so there wasn't much to do unless I wanted to walk 40 minutes to the nearest mall, which I did do on occasion.
With a Micro Four Thirds.
Michigan squad, yeah, hell yeah. I feel like eventually I'll end up in Michigan. I'm going to Indianapolis after this, and then I want to spend some time in Chicago. I think a couple years in Chicago would be really sick because, like, big city, Midwest. I love the Midwest, but I also want to have a little bit of my New York City-ish era. Do that in Chicago. Chicago's always been like, we would go there all the time, middle school, high school. It's always been kind of the beacon, the big city. So I want to spend some time there. But then eventually I would like to end up in Michigan. Just such a beautiful, beautiful area.
So I can adapt a wider variety of lenses, since I can just stack a C-mount adapter on top of that.
Chicago, my hometown. I'm actually planning on going to Chicago. Well, I was supposed to be in Chicago literally tomorrow for a film festival, but that got delayed. So that's not happening anymore. But I ain't complaining about having an extra couple days to work on videos here. But I still might make a trip out to Chicago here in the next couple weeks because I got to go to a distributor for some like silicones for mold making, something for an upcoming video.
From here on forward, all this footage is present day, which is why my desk is much more colorful and my Rode mic is now made of wood. I finished this project over a year ago, but I waited to make the video, and I'll explain why. This camera is definitely an oddball with its specific advantages and disadvantages. And to explain, I'm gonna take it to downtown Cleveland and do a bit of filming. The rest of the video is shot on the action camera.
Am I in focus right now?
Yeah, so these shots are not graded very much. I think if you look at this side by side to the ungraded shot, I think the big thing is just like all of this orange is way pinker. Like the whole image is so pink and cold. So basically all of the grading for all of these clips is sending it a lot greener on the tint and sending it a lot warmer on the temperature. If you do end up coming to GR Michigan in general, I'd love to help shoot with you or just hang out if you're interested in a videographer. Hell yeah. Might be in touch. I'd love to go there again for something. Actually, I do have a big shoot planned in Michigan at some point. It's much farther down the road, but I'm going to film something at the dunes up there in Silver Lake. That's a lot farther north, but Silver Lake Dunes, I want to film something there. If you haven't checked it out before, look up American Science and Surplus in Chicago. Ooh. That sounds like a kind of store I would like. The science toys. Interesting. I thought it was going to be like a military surplus store. Or maybe it is as well. I don't know. I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Probably not. The reason I waited to...
I did all of these shots. All the Pista cameras in this are so wide because I knew I was probably not going to be able to nail the focus if I did a close-up. And that would be a lot more jarring than the focus being off on a wide. So that's why I shot all of them super wide.
To make this video after finishing the project was honestly because I wasn't sure what the use case for this camera even was. I'm stuck only using manual focus lenses on it, and
Totally missed focus on this shot.
it's tough to manual focus because the screen is so tiny, especially in combination with vintage lenses, which
I love the colors on this shot. This was the Wollensack 25 millimeter. So shaky, but like the lens flares are just
already
crazy
finicky to focus.
I don't know what it is about that lens, but the darks, like the shadows are so warm, and it's really cool. Like, I think you can tell that I didn't do a lot of this look in grading because it's different from shot to shot. Like, you could almost go through shot by shot and tell which lens I used
already finicky to focus.
because like it's so distinct, like these shadows.
It's rough.
So these shots, the three pista cameras were on, maybe not the last one, but the first two pista cameras were actually on adapted EF glass. Basically all of the other footage is C-mount, but these ones I used adapted EF from Micro Four Thirds to EF because I just wanted something that I knew would be a touch more reliable. Because if I miss the focus on all the B-roll, that's like whatever. I'm talking about how it's hard to focus, but I would rather not miss focus on the pista cameras.
Combination for shooting. When I'm in studio and I can closely monitor the picture, it's totally usable, but that
I didn't even notice because the viewfinder was so small in this shot. I was just pointing, but I didn't even notice that the crane is moving.
And I can closely monitor the picture, it's totally usable, but that
which is a cool detail, but I couldn't even tell at all in the viewfinder.
kind of defeats the purpose of it being a small pocket.
Do you think this is also possible with a GoPro? Yes, definitely. Actually, more doable. You're going to need wider angle lenses because it has a smaller sensor, so it'll crop in more. But the GoPro will be better because it has HDMI out, so you can monitor it. And GoPros have a bigger screen right off the bat. Like, even if you're not using a monitor, the GoPro has twice as big a screen as the Insta360. And Backbone, the company that made the kit, still makes kits for GoPros, but they don't make them for the Insta360s anymore. So I would actually recommend doing this on a GoPro. The only thing is, if you want to adapt bigger, like if you want to adapt from, I think the GoPro one actually, they don't do a Micro Four Thirds GoPro one. I think the GoPro kit is just C-mount. So you don't have the option of stepping it up to like EF or anything like that. But I don't know that you'd want to anyway because the crop factor would be so crazy. Like a 16-35 Canon lens would be like a 75-300 or something crazy like that. That math is entirely wrong, but it's a crazy crop factor. So with a GoPro on C-mount, it would be better anyway because you probably only want to use C-mount like machine lenses because you can get like 6mm C-mount lenses that are meant for like machines and security cameras and stuff like that. And that'll serve you pretty well with that cropped sensor. I thought this shot was really cool, but I totally missed focus on it as well.
Camera entirely.
The school bus going home.
Once again, not sure if I'm in focus here, but we'll roll with it.
Totally missed this one. This is funny. So to pull focus on this one, I'm probably standing maybe a foot behind this little sapling, and I tried to pull focus to the tree, and then I was going to stand by the tree. And so it's not even like that I couldn't judge where I was standing well enough. It's that literally I just couldn't even pull focus to the tree.
Men doing this project, modifying an action
but
camera
I got lucky on the other one.
to take all kinds of lenses. Well, it depends on what you're looking for. It's an extremely
So yeah, that's the adapted Canon lens, you see that EF to micro four thirds adapter.
Lenses, well, it depends on what you're looking for. It's an extremely fun piece of kit, and
This shot's cool. This shot almost one for one exists in the, because the place that I'm testing this camera is the same place that I tested the pocket camera in that video, in the Canon G9X point and shoot. And I think I did this shot almost one for one on the point and shoot. Actually, I want to check because it's funny. The ultimate daily pocket camera. Oh. Okay, so there's this. Let's unfull screen it so we can see. And this. Theater mode. Where is my footage? Can't remember if I included that shot or not. Oh no, I might have cut it. This is a similar shot, not the same. But yeah, I guess this is my de facto testing ground for cameras now.
capture more.
No, I don't think I included the clip. Yeah, that sequence was longer on that video, but I cut some of it. But yeah, there was a shot that was almost exactly the same as this. Full screen.
It's always fun to show other videographers and have them be like, what the hell is that thing? What did you do? But
I want to explore more over here. You can go down to the river and there's this sick drawbridge. It's really a cool spot for grabbing B-roll. I am going to miss Cleveland when I move away. Like, I love just industrial towns like this. Like, I'm going to Indianapolis next, and Indianapolis just doesn't have as much of that history. Like, Indianapolis was kind of built as like a hub for, you know, it's just in the middle of a lot of highways and stuff. But like Cleveland's like Detroit, basically. Came from industry. And I love that kind of town. Chicago has definitely a degree of that, being on the Great Lakes. I don't know if they no, they definitely have a lot of this old industrial kind of drawbridge stuff laying around, especially South Chicago. Yeah, that would be a cool place to end. So I'm going to miss this moving to Indianapolis, but
as for legitimate use case,
for now it's very fun to shoot.
it's pretty niche, honestly.
So I left some of these clips pretty shaky, even though I could have post-stabilized them. I left them shaky to like communicate that the camera is shaky. I think I can fix a lot of it with post-stabilization because the camera records gyro data. But that just adds another step to the process using the Insta360 Studio. But it does work.
Honestly.
So I put a touch of stabilization on this clip just to make it not like totally headache inducing, but still left it shaky to communicate. Gyroflow is mint. It is. I need to mess around with it more on that camera. It's funny. I hope I don't come across in this video as like being too down on the camera. Honestly, I was expecting the footage to come out worse than it did when I recorded those piece of cameras. But it's just like the shooting experience is like really tough. It's a little frustrating to shoot because you don't know if any of what you're getting is in focus. There's no way to tell if you got the shot or not, really. You can hook it up to an app on your phone and monitor with your phone, but that experience also is terrible. So you open the Insta360 app and it pulls up to like a social media thing of like people sharing what they filmed on their Insta360. You have to go to this other menu to connect the camera. You wait like a full minute for it to connect to the camera. Then you go into the monitor and you're in this monitor thing and it works, but it's in portrait. It's locked in portrait. You can't rotate the phone to view it landscape, so it's super tiny still. And because it's Bluetooth, it's not even that high resolution, so you can't pull focus with it anyway. So the app doesn't help at all for monitoring. I guess the only thing that could be useful from it is you can Bluetooth pair, move your footage over wirelessly, which takes a while, and then you could check if you got the shot. But it's just it's like the footage doesn't look that bad. I think the footage looks pretty good, especially when I get the focus, and in combination with the old lenses, it looks good. But it's just like, it's hard to communicate how not good the shooting experience is if you're like really relying on, if you need to get the shots.
A few months after I did this project, Van Neistat posted a video.
Every creative needs a bad camera. Exactly. I've got a lot of bad cameras. Ooh, mic moment. I will do a new video on the EOS M at some point, because this is like my favorite bad camera. Like, it's arguably not even a bad camera. It's kind of just awesome. I've been meaning to mess around with clean HDMI on this thing too, because I've heard you can stream from it now and get clean HDMI out. But this thing is sick. Just got one for $100 finally. Wow, $100 for an EOS M. That's a steal now. I feel like they're mostly going for like $250. I need to pick up a new control board to fix my D-pad on it, which I think you can get those replacement parts for like $20, something like that. And then I'm gonna tear the whole thing apart, do a full fix and some crazy mods to it. I want to put a flip-up screen on it. I've got the ribbon cables already for it. That'll probably be one that takes place this summer, this spring, after the move. Bigger project. I use it for 360 walkthrough for GPS data on the X3. Oh, interesting. Been messing with the OpenGate 1080. There's OpenGate now? I didn't know that. So it's like 3x2 video? That's wild. I need to try that. I've been wanting an OpenGate camera. My buddy Trey might be sending me a S5 II that's broken for me to try to fix. And that has OpenGate, I believe, which is something that I've been wanting to mess around with. Yes, sirree. Wow. Okay. Wow, that's sick. Okay, I need to try that. That's very fun. OpenGate plus anamorphic adapters is something I've been wanting to mess around with.
About a similar project.
Now this shot's crazy. We get some of the reddish shadows as well, which I think was partially from just like weird lens flares. Man, what lens was this? I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was one of the EF lenses, the EF 16-35, but it doesn't look like it. Like this was definitely the 25 millimeter Woolen Sachs C-mount. I can't remember. I want to say it was the 16-35, so I'm not sure how all these crazy flares are happening. I think there's some degree of just like light leakage or something, or the replacement IR sensors. Something makes the colors just strange in this camera.
Pro to take vintage lenses. And in that video, he was kind of grappling.
Now, this is also on the action camera. This was a Rokinon 12 millimeter Micro Four Thirds, I believe. Yeah, I think that's it. That or the Isocar f1.6.
With the same issue of convincing himself he needed this thing for a certain use case, but in the end accepting that he just wanted it because he liked it. I think it's important to do kind of fun and pointless projects from time to time, as long as you're being honest with yourself about how you're spending your money and time and not convincing yourself that you need something you don't. I think the battery's about to die.
This piece to camera, the camera died while I was recording it. So like this clip here is the only footage that actually exists of it, which is why I J-cut.
Liked it. I think it's important to do kind of fun and
I J-cut and then I go to B-roll, because when I'm saying that line, the camera is not even recording. I got the backup off the Rode Wireless, which was a lifesaver.
pointless projects from time to time, as long as you're being honest with yourself about.
There was a fourth piece to camera that I didn't use because the audio didn't work. I thought that they had added a feature to the Rode Wireless where you could record on it without connecting it to the master. Like you could press the button, because when I press the button, it starts blinking faster. And I thought that meant it was recording. Like I thought you could use it as an independent audio recorder, but I guess not, because nothing's saved. But maybe that's just on the newer one. I don't know. We'll see. If I take that Rode sponsor deal, we'll find out. Oh, funny thing about this one too. So I made a video modifying the Rode mic with wood and tearing it apart, and Rode reaches out and they're like, yo, sick video. We'll send you something. I haven't decided if I'm going to take it or not yet. Because I'm conflicted on doing sponsorships this early in the channel. But Rode reaches out after that video. And then after this video, Insta360 reaches out, which is so cool. It's like, okay, here's the formula. You just you tear apart somebody's product and then they'll reach out and want to sponsor you. It's so funny. How many times do you record each segment, and how much B-roll do you discard? This process was very different than usual. Usually I know that everything I'm recording is going to be usable. In this case, I recorded more than I needed because I, can't tell if it's in focus or not. So this is maybe 25% of the B-roll. And then I recorded 4 piece to cameras. I used the 3, because the other one just had no audio. I used a little bit of the one that I was out of focus, but there was a lot more for this one. I talked a little bit about image stabilization, but then I ended up deciding I didn't want to get too technical in the video. So for stuff like this, where I'm shooting remote, I will kind of cover my ass by talking for a while. So each of these clips, I probably talked for between 2 to 5 minutes about just, anything that I might possibly want to include at the end of the video as a wrap up. And then I kind of decide what stays and what goes in the edit. That's not how I record stuff in the studio. In the studio, I know exactly what I'm going to say, and I just do it and then put it in. But for a remote shoot like this, I don't want to have to drive back out there if I'm like, oh, I wish I'd said this, So that's the process there. And then for B-roll, I recorded a lot of B-roll in this case because I didn't know how much of it was going to be total trash. And actually, a lot of it ended up being usable. Way more was usable than I thought would be. So I had a lot. And then when it cuts back here and I'm saying the final line,
I think the battery's about to die.
The battery had already died at that point. This is the clip from before. This is the start of the clip before I walked out and did the piece to camera. I just wanted to use this again because I really liked this shot. And I also like to imagine that the voiceover here is the seagull, is the little seagull on the dock talking.
Time and not convincing yourself that you need something you don't.
There I am. I turned
I think
into
the
a
battery's
seagull.
about to die.
And as I walk away in the audio,
Thank you for your time.
the seagull flies away. Yeah, good stuff. 22/11/09. So this was recorded. The original mod was November 2022. So yeah, over a year. Birds are not real. I have photographic evidence of them right here. Well, I don't know. These do look like government drone-like activities, don't they?
About how you're spending your money and time and not.
If that were a real creature, why would it be out there just doing that? He's doing nothing. It's clearly spying on us. Your dates are backwards? Nah, that's just... I do year, month, day.
instead of month, year, day, or day, month, year, because I just like it. It's more universal, I feel like, because Europeans do day, month, year, which actually makes more sense than the American month, day, year, because it's like sequential, right? Day, month, year is the shortest, mid, longest. And so I like having it sequential like that, but I also don't want to like confuse the majority American audience. So like 11/15 reads as November 15th for us. But by putting the year at the front, it's also, you know, that's also how I organize all my files. Because, you know, if you title all of your files year, month, day, then it'll organize fully chronologically by year, then by month, then by day. So this is kind of just, that's how I record all of my files so that they go in the right order. Because if you use day, month, year for that, then it'll sort by the date first, and it's like it doesn't work. So that's why I do that. What are your audience percentage? I don't know. I mean, it's I off the top of my head, nationality, it's like quite a bit American and then European. I feel like Germany is pretty high for some reason, but I know like demographic wise, it's like 98% men, because this is definitely male activities tearing things apart. But I don't know like how I could, because I would love to get a larger, you know, a more diverse percentage instead of just a bunch of dudes. But it's mostly dudes, and it's like surprisingly old for YouTube as well. Like I think my largest demo is like 30s, something like that. Yeah, unsurprising. Exactly. But yeah, not many young dudes either, which I wish there were more young dudes, because like I don't know, I feel like working with your hands is something that we gotta be doing as a generation, instead of being on the dang computers all the time. I'm pulling it up right now. Top geographies: 30% United States, 7.5% United Kingdom, 7.1% Germany, then Canada, then Australia. 97% male. It's not as bad as it used to be. And we've got, largest demo age-wise is 39.4%, 25 to 34. And then 34%, 18 to 24. Only 1.7%, 13 to 17. So there's like no teenagers watching, which is interesting. Because like I feel like Casey Neistat hit with the teens, but I guess he was doing cool stuff. He's skateboarding around New York City and being cool. I'm not as cool. So yeah, I don't know why it's skewed older, but I like it. And it's like 15% 35 to 44, 6% 45 to 54. Let me see if I can pull this up on the screen. There's nothing that, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. So like, isn't that crazy? I have a higher percentage of 55 to 64-year-olds than younger than 17-year-olds. There are more people over 55 than younger than 17 watching my channel. Really interesting. But yeah, like, what's this combined? 75% 18 to 34. That makes sense. Yeah. This was another interesting thing I was looking at earlier, was what else my audience watches. What's the chat saying? Germany, yes, Germany's a fairly large percent. I'm a female carpenter. It is possible. Hell yeah. Let's see. My cousin is actually a female carpenter. She just started working for a company making cabinets and stuff. It's sick. William Osman, Linus Tech Tips crossover audience. Well, this is last 7 days, the videos that people watch the most. Alan Pan, that makes sense. 3 Linus Tech Tips videos. So in the past 7 days, I have a very large crossover audience with Linus Tech Tips, which kind of makes sense, I guess, because a majority of my views in the last 7 days are probably from the camera video and the road repair video. So it's like electronics repairs. That makes sense. There's my revenue number. It was high because the road video blew up. My monthly revenue on YouTube now is like roughly my utility bills, so this is big. Yeah, Osman, Linus Tech. It's really interesting that there's such a big crossover with Linus Tech Tips. Technology connections, that makes sense, diving deep into silly things. More Linus Tech Tips. Other silly little keyboard into an Altoids tin. I put a screen in my desk. Tiny 3.5cc nitro engine bicycle. Yeah, other silly conceptual videos. Louis Rossman, that makes sense. Crossover with the right to repair stuff. This was an interesting one that I saw. Podcasts, if it loads. Safety third, makes sense. Waveform with MKBHD, that makes sense. And the yard, which that feels very out of place. Because like we were saying, I don't have a very young, well, I don't know if the Yards audience is very young, but that's like if you don't know, it's like a video game, like Twitch streamer podcast, which I actually do enjoy from time to time, but like, it's interesting that there's a crossover there. I don't know if anybody cares about any of this. Are we dropping viewers? I think it's interesting. You got to remember most young people put in older ages than they actually are, so those numbers aren't actually that reliable. Yeah, true, but you gotta, it's got to be somewhat reliable. I'm pretty sure this account is set older than I really am. Yeah, but like you see, there definitely are like being on the back end of other channels, I've seen like the teenage numbers be like 1.7% or whatever mine was at is very, very low, even considering that potential offshoot. Just watched the keyboard and desk one recently. Yeah, you're contributing to the to the trend. I think the Yard is just popular enough to be everywhere. That makes sense. They are a really big podcast, aren't they? Just hanging out, about to fly a few packs. Hell yeah. Let's look more at this. Is interesting to me. But yeah, Yard crossover was kind of funny. Especially because I was looking at this yesterday. Well, maybe this is part of it, is one of the guys on the Yard just did safety third. Like, I think it came out today. I think I still have the tab open somewhere. Yeah, one of the Yard boys just did safety third. So it's funny that there's that crossover there, even though these two worlds never intersect. Channels that your audience watches. William Osman, Alan Pan, Technology Connections. Great Scott. I'm not familiar with these two. Electronics.
Welcome to the Great Scott YouTube channel.
Oh, I have seen this guy. Okay, so electronics tinkering. And oh, this is a sick channel. Jet engines. Yeah, this is a dope channel. Yeah, so that's the crossovers. Zach Friedman, Peter Streeple, Cam Shand. He's the guy that's making the transparent desk thing where he tore apart his Focusrite interface and stuff. That's very interesting to me. it makes me want to tear apart my Focusrite. Van Neistat, let's go. Aging Wheels, that's a sick channel, especially because I haven't done that much car maintenance videos yet. It's sick that there's a crossover there. Aging Wheels is making like an electric vehicle converted Ford Escape. Great channel. Snappiness is a quirky camera channel. Matthew Stern, RC Life. Super Fast Matt, I'm not familiar. I assume car channel. Yeah, car channel. What is the best truck and why is it the Toyota Tacoma? That's my kind of video right there. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting looking at the stats. It's always interesting to see. You can see the times that your viewers are on YouTube. I don't know how reliable this is actually though, because I used to like always post at 9 a.m. because I felt like that was the start of the window that most people are on. But then like lately I've been posting fairly late in the evening and the videos actually take off quicker usually when I do that, but it's all kind of hard to judge because the channel's growing so quickly that it's hard to baseline anything really. The amount of data is kind of crazy. Yeah, and that's only like surface level. There's an insane level of data if you dive into it. That's just kind of the stuff it shows you on the audience page. But you can see like you can go as deep. What is happening on my TV? Hold on. There we go. I switched it from NTSC to PAL, and that's what it did. Yeah, you can go so crazy on data because, I mean, at the end of the day, YouTube is Google. Google is a data company. Google is an ads company. And you can go so deep on it. Like, I can go to the level of, like, which videos had the highest retention for a female audience, or, like, you can do specific stuff like, you know, for people from Australia, which videos had the highest click-through rate. Like, it's insane the level that you can go to. Wow, this stream flew by. 2 hours. That's sick. 2 hours is my goal usually without projects. Eventually I want to do, you know, an hour of hanging out and then a couple hours of projects. But for now, we're just doing hanging out streams. Any other questions before I go? Otherwise, I'm going to get back to making all this stuff. Getting back to the shelves. Ooh, my white balance is very off now. It's always funny. I'm setting up the stream because I go live at 6 p.m. Eastern, which is these days in like January around, that's like the time the sun is setting. And so it's like, as I'm setting up the stream and setting white balances and everything, it's all one set of lighting. And then by the time I actually go live, the sun is down. So I'm looking forward to my future studio setup where there's not as much natural light in the equation. I don't know if I can read that one on stream, brother, but no. Thanks, man. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. But yeah, I'm going to get back to work on this thing, start building more shelves. Once I have all the frames up, I can start going crazy on sticking stuff in it, building the stuff inside that's going to sit on. Just subscribed after watching a couple of your videos. Good shit. Keep it up. Hell yeah. Thank you. Have fun and good luck. Thank you, sir. I like the vibe of the little candle sitting there. It's kind of cute. Actually, I do want to show before I turn the stream off. Let me mute this mic and turn on this. Oh, hello. Does this work? It appears to be working. Okay. I am now on the handheld mic. Where's this camera? Here we are. I just got a new lens on this camera today. Just came in the mail. I've been like not making purchases because I'm kind of running low on money, but or just trying to conserve my money mainly. Let's fix this white balance. But I bought a lens for the first time in a while, and it is this insane super zoom. Look at that. 18-200. 18-200. It's got autofocus and it's got power zoom. So this I'm doing with a motor and a switch, which is pretty sick. But the cool thing is it's an older power zoom where you can turn it off and then manual zoom. So I'm not stuck with the slow power zoom. I can also do fast crash zooms handheld. And it's freaking sick. I think this is my new favorite lens. I haven't found like a Sony lens that I've fell in love with yet. I find them to be a little bland in comparison to Canon EF glass. Like this lens is awesome. 24-105. It's like very tactile. It's all like mechanical zoom, which I love, versus my newer Sony zooms are like zoom by wire. So like when you rotate it, it doesn't actually zoom if it's not plugged in. But these, I love the feel. Let me switch so I can show you this lens physically, actually. There's no lens. Oh, God. Well, how do I put this on? Little accent candle in every project from now on. Yeah. A little bit of fire. So this is the new lens. It's like pretty stubby and it's very heavy. So I believe this was the lens that came with the FS5, like cinema style camcorder. I think, I can't remember. Or maybe the FS7. I believe it was the first power zoom lens from Sony. So it's like a manual zoom, right? But it's got this whole box on it with a motor in it. So it's real chunky, but it's nice because it means you can turn it on and off. But also, since I'm just nerding out right now, but since it has a motor hooked up to the zoom mechanism, it's less loose. Whereas like the 24-105 that's on the camera right now, if you zoom it all the way out, or if you zoom it out, it'll kind of drift, like the weight of the lens will pull it down. But this one does not. Like it won't zoom out by being upside down because it's kind of mitigated by being hooked up to a motor. It's also got this switch for speeds. You can change the speed of the motor, which is just sick. And it's so small for transport. I'm just in love with this thing. First Sony lens that I have actually like really liked. Wrong camera. Only downside is not constant aperture, but like I don't even, I shoot in studio mostly, so I can kind of manage my lighting, and shooting at a high aperture doesn't really matter that much. Anyway, that's all for today. Say goodbye to the Insta360 because it's definitely not going to be used as webcam anymore. On full. Actually, I wanted to show before I turn this thing off. This is like color corrected. So here's my LUT. So with no LUT, and then I did a bunch of corrections to make it like S-Log. So this is taking it to S-Log, and then this is putting my LUT on it. But before S-Log, so I have little white balance corrections. Look how bad this looks.
Like, it's so bad at when you put it in webcam mode, it does auto ISO, auto shutter speed, and auto white balance. And it's just so bad at all of it. And the colors are way too saturated. It just is not, like, this is not what the image looks like when it's not in webcam mode. It just doesn't know what to do with its own software for being plugged into USB. So it's just basically totally useless as a streaming camera. But maybe it'll find its way into future videos. It'll find its own little purpose. That's all. Thank you for hanging out. It's been a good one. I'll see you on Tuesday with a new video.